People are losing it over Sue Storm's design as Malice in Marvel Rivals. And, being honest, I have no idea why. Okay, let's speak perfectly frank. People are losing their minds right now because Sue Storm looks like she does in a comic. And I'm talking about like 80s and 90s comics, not the stuff that we've been getting nowadays. Okay, like in 2025, you think this is a look? This was Sue's costume in the 90s. Now you know what I mean. But still, the look of Malice specifically is driving people up a wall. Which is hilarious because in the comics, it's so much more. But let's be real, it has nothing to do with the comics. This is all about Sue Storm getting the Stellar Blade treatment. And I haven't actually played Marvel Rivals, but I'm really hoping Reed Richards still has the super effective move that he uses against her in the comics. That being the power of super misogyny. And if you want more information on Malice and why Reed is doing this, click the related video. People are freaking out over Squirrel Girl's design in Marvel Rivals. But this is nothing compared to her original design. Yeah. That's Squirrel Girl's first appearance, alright. But before people get started on the Asmongold cycle again,
gooning and hating,
I'd like to remind you of my least favorite moment with her. Because for years, she has been a menace. In fact, she tried to trap the most ground-level Marvel hero, Daredevil. Because while she was watching The Child of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, she tried to make a move on him. And you can tell that Daredevil's not comfortable in this situation. Especially when she moves in close. And all of the red flags start going up when he asks how old she is, and she says, "Old enough to appreciate you for saving my life." And here's the thing. Marvel exists on a sliding timescale, meaning from the first appearance of Fantastic Four to today is roughly 15 years. And when she first appeared, she was 14 years old. Which means by the time she was hitting on Matt Murdock in that comic, she was roughly 16 to 17. And look, in America, you're not an adult until you're 18. So Matt made a good call. We know characters like Supergirl and her more famous cousin, Superman, live in Metropolis. But do we actually know where these DC Comics cities are really set? Well, I've done a little investigating and the answers might surprise you. Like I said, the most famous pair of super cousins live in Metropolis. And you're probably thinking, this has to be a play on New York City. So obviously, why wouldn't it be in the same place? And you know, I agree with you. But it's not. Because as it turns out, it was confirmed in the 70s, Metropolis is based in Delaware.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Yeah, and the only thing Delaware has going for it, besides the former Mr. Beast employee, is... well, that's not any better. Okay, what about Batman? The Dark Knight and the rest of the Bat family are set up in Gotham, filled with incredible Gothic architecture. It has to be in a wonderful state, right? Oh. It's in New Jersey? So if we wanted to see a Batman that was more representative of his state, he'd basically be someone from the Jersey Shore. Yeah, this Batman GTLs. Jim, Tan, let's get revenge.
Like and subscribe.
Retcons have been a massive part of comics since the beginning. For example, look at Ma and Pa Kent, the loving couple that raised baby Superman. Heck, Pa Kent specifically was one of the most impactful characters on Superman's life. And in some iterations, like the 1978 movie, his death shows Superman that even though he's so powerful, he can't save everyone. But in Clark Kent's first appearance in Action Comics #1, there is no Ma and Pa Kent. In fact, the person who finds the spaceship turns the baby over to an orphanage. And then looking over at Marvel, we see this cute couple. And this chick is, well, she's a hoe. So much so that she actually cheats on her boyfriend with his own brother and gets pregnant. Then delivers the baby and gives it to her best friend to raise, since she's actually dating the father. Oh, and that baby was baby Peter Parker, Spider-Man. And the woman who birthed Peter Parker while hoeing around with her boyfriend's brother was actually Aunt May. This was originally going to be Ultimate Spider-Man's origin, but thank God it was re-retconned.
Hey yo, what the f?
Superman inspired real-world crimes.
Hey yo, what the f?
Or at least his creator did. Let's get into it. This is Joe Shuster, the artist and co-creator of Superman. And even with his insane impact on the comic book industry, he was poor. So he did what any struggling artist would do, and began drawing adult material. And obviously these images aren't going to be too bad. However, there were a lot worse ones. People nowadays won't think this is a huge deal. However, this was the 1950s. Put it in that perspective. The books, called Knights of Horror, really took off in underground communities and began inspiring some people. Namely, these 4 teens, who would get inspired by Joe Shuster's work in Knights of Horror, as well as other vigilante comics of the time, resulting in them sending multiple people to the Shadow Realm, if you know what I mean. They were only charged with one person's ending. Granted, they beat the crap out of him, drug him down multiple city blocks before throwing him in the river where he drowned. They did this because he was drunk, passed out on a bench. But here's where things get crazier. The eldest teen was represented by Fred Morit, Democratic Senator of New York, who tried to say that the boys were just horsing around, and the African-American gentleman whose life they ended was not a tragic loss for society. I don't even know how to respond to that. And the crazy part is, since they were all 15 to 18 years old, the jury went easy on them. With the youngest going to reform school, the second youngest had his charges completely dismissed, and the two eldest only had to serve 10 to 20 years. Also, allegedly, the eldest perpetrator pictured here ended up somehow being the inspiration for James Dean's character in A Rebel Without a Cause. What? There was also a court psychiatrist who was present at the trial, and if you're familiar with comic books at all, you'll know the name Frederick Wortham. Yeah, you know, the guy who fabricated studies saying reading Batman comics made kids gay. Because of how everything went down, and the fact that they said Knights of Horror was one of their inspirations, the state of New York banned all of the books and recalled them. All copies were to be rounded up by the authorities and properly destroyed. And it's crazy, it started off only being banned in New York City, then the state, then it went to the United States Supreme Court, where they agreed at the time, get these books out of here. And because of the insane levels of fallout from the entire situation, and at the prodding of Frederick Wortham, a new division of oversight was created for the comic book industry. Something you might be familiar with. The Comics Code Authority. All of this insanity can all be tied back to the creator of Superman not being able to pay rent, and having to turn to more risque means just to get by. Have you ever noticed that DC Comics characters are way more geographically spread out than Marvel's? I mean, think about it, the Fantastic Four, and yes, this was Sue Storm's costume in the 90s, Spider-Man, and Iron Man all function within New York City. And if that's not enough, characters like Daredevil micromanage the shit out of a 1 square mile neighborhood. On the other hand, characters like Supergirl and Superman are located in Metropolis, which is actually in Delaware of all places. Wonder Woman originally coming from Paradise Island, but settling in Gateway City, California. And speaking as somebody who used to live in California, probably not the best place to be right now. Heck, Batman's based out of New Jersey, and even Barry Allen's Flash is based out of Missouri. And no one wants to go back to Missouri.
I ain't going back to Missouri!
Superman's greatest weakness was actually created to give someone a break from work.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Stick to the end because this will blow your mind. Now, Superman's been around since Action Comics #1 from 1938. And since it's so famous, you would think that Kryptonite is his main original weakness. But you'd be wrong. Actually, before Kryptonite, his main weakness was magic, going all the way back to 1941. Of course, he has other weaknesses like red sun radiation. Yeah, but fun fact, he didn't get that weakness until Action Comics 300 in 1963. But with Kryptonite, things are a little different. Because I'm sure for yourself, as well as me, Kryptonite is his go-to weakness. The one with the most significance to Superman as a character. And who do we have to thank for its creation? Well, that would be this man here, Bud Collyer, the voice actor for the Superman radio plays. Yeah, Kryptonite wasn't even an original comic creation. But wait, there's more! Kryptonite was really created so this man could take a day off work and go on vacation. And because Kryptonite hurt Superman, no one would have to actually say anything. They would just have to grumble and moan. So while he was gone, anyone could be Superman. So, Superman's main weakness, something that was tied to his planet's destruction, which has insane cultural significance 82 years later, it is a term literally used to describe someone's weakness. That's my kryptonite, is all traced back to this man wanting a break from work.